welcome to the Last Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Chandler, here with my co-host, Christian Miller.
Hey, what's up?
Well, nothing much, man. We're not janky anymore. So if you listen to, I guess this will be
rented out a studio for the weekend.
Yeah, man. If you listen to last week's episode, I had really bad audio quality, and we didn't use any video because I was just coming home from college, so it was pretty jank. But now, if you're on Spotify or YouTube, you can see that I got a nice little setup behind me. We got the Black Series Darth Vader helmet making its first appearance, along with the Ahsoka poster that everyone who listens has heard so much about and yet has not seen. I love this poster. Yeah, it's just great. If you're listening, it is Ahsoka holding Grogu to her head, and it's a shot from The Mandalorian season 2. It's great. Anyway, yeah. Also the Darksaber, I love it. It's the Hasbro Darksaber. It's not the Black Series Darksaber. One day
so it's okay to like whack people with.
Yeah. It's not super. I tried to take it apart once because I wanted just the hilt. Like I wanted to see if I could take the blade off of it, and I can't do it without breaking it and not having it, because it's like the wires are soldered from the blade into the hilt, which kind of sucks. Which means if I take the blade off, it will no longer work. So, and currently it makes sound effects and lights up. So I wanted it for the sound effects with just the hilt, but that won't work. So anyway, normally
Why are we here, Spencer?
Do what?
Why are we here? Why are we talking?
Well, we're here to talk about the Spencer Order. That's what we'll call it, I guess, because I don't know what else do we call it.
I don't know. Like there's another version is called the Machete Order.
Mm-hmm.
So think of the tool that sort of fits you, and
I got you. Being a Boy Scout, I feel like we should call this the Compass Order, because that's a tool that I used a lot. So we'll call it. This will be the Compass Order.
All right, that works.
Yeah. So normally this is the part of the episode where we talk about what we've been doing in Star Wars, but we just recorded yesterday, so nothing has changed. So yeah. So basically, if you listen to last week's episode, I kind of hinted at that one of my friends has been trying to figure out how to best introduce their friend to Star Wars, and in what way to watch the original 11 movies, and they're gonna bypass the Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance for now, and hopefully.
Yeah, that's my issue. I don't think that's a fully valid thing, because I was gonna ask you when you brought that up, and then we realized we should save it for another recording. Is that I think it's best to know what kinds of movies and shows this person is into.
Yes.
Because if they're into anime, I would start them right off with Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
If they have the patience for long form content, then that's probably what I'd start them off with. But if they like sort of the big epic 2 hour, like Harry Potter or like Lord of the Rings, and like movies will be just fine. And then you sort of, if you ask them certain things about those things, you'd be like, okay, maybe I start them off with this trilogy.
Yeah.
So we're working on a template that's like sort of could be for anyone, less of a personal, like this is tailor made for this specific person.
Yes, and I've been working on and I say working on it. There will be times where I think about it, and I've written this list down a couple times and then made revisions to it and been like, okay, well those two movies don't really go well together, so it'd be weird to watch. And a lot of this, honestly, a couple of the weird choices that are made in this that people may see as like weird choices to put movies together came from our mutual rankings marathon, because some of these movies may or may not have ended up next to each other, and made me realize, oh, that's a really good pairing, and it's a really good start and finish. And that's what a lot of my list is start and finish. Like, you can see the, work. I don't know. That's what shows a lot of my list. I can
start
also
and finish, meaning how exactly do you mean? Like, do you skip the middle, or
no? But I think I don't want to spoil it, because there's one major like weird thing that I'm doing. Two I'd say two major weird things that I'm doing with my order, and I don't want to spoil them, but it goes with start and finish. Another thing before I officially start telling, because Christian, you don't know this either. You don't know my list either. So this will be fun for you to like react to. But you can there is a spot where you can insert the TV shows pretty easily. And I have set aside, like, if you're willing to spend 2 or 3 months going Star Wars start to finish, in a certain order, this is the order I would give you, and you can put in the shows at these specific spots, but you can also take the shows out, and it will still be a good order, I think. So, yeah, this is kind of an order for everyone. It may be the order I show my kids Star Wars in. It may not be. Who knows? My opinion will probably change by that point.
That's another interesting part of it. Like, is it tailor-made for kids, or is it just like suitable for kids, but it's like anyone can start with this order?
I think that anyone can start with this order because I was looking at it from the mind of, like, if someone has never seen Star Wars before, trying to make them as not as confused as possible, have them understand as much of what's going on as possible. Because I think there is some orders where you can be like, oh, I have no idea what's happening. So my biggest problem with showing people like the prequels first is that that's a lot of stuff to like throw them in, like, and for some people it won't be a problem, but there are people who like they get all this Force stuff and all this like political stuff and all that, and they're like, whoa, I did not know that Star Wars was so like political and so Force lore stuff as the prequels. And then they're like, why didn't you start me with the original trilogy when it's, a lot more simple of a concept? You get to know about the Force, you get to know a little bit about the Jedi, and then you get to learn huge stuff. So,
The
but then there are
characters
people who think the
in
opposite.
the original trilogy are like, they have a perspective on what the past is, and it's this sort of thing of like, we don't know, but we're kind of learning.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, but then there are people who think the opposite, who are like, yes, but I also want the big, amazing fight scenes of the prequels first, and then we'll have a little bit of a, I don't want to say downgrade, because downgrade is not the right word, but then we'll have a little bit of decline in the epicness of like lightsaber and hand-to-hand combat scenes, and then we're going to ramp it back up with the, there's those people as well. And those are also normally the chronological people, the people who are like, let's watch it in chronological order. I think that's also a great order to watch it in, is just chronological. I think chronological is great after you've seen all the Star Wars movies. That's my opinion.
Yeah, because like, especially with like the Clone Wars, a lot of the way that's told is like, we know how it ends, and so we just need to see how it happens, and there's a lot of suspense.
It's a lot of the foreshadowing, and it's a lot of like, hey, this is happening, wink wink at the audience, because you know what happens later. Like that happens a lot with the Jedi and with a lot of the stuff in Clone Wars. So anyway, so I want to take the two people who would rather start slow and the people who would rather start with crazy epic fight scenes. I'm going to mush them together. I'm going to tell you the first movie that I think that people should watch. And this might come as a surprise because I don't talk about this movie very much, but Rogue One. I think starting with Rogue One is a really, really good like starting point, because here's the thing. In the 70s, when they made the Empire, the Empire is supposed to be kind of, they're supposed to be foreboding. Darth Vader's supposed to be scary. But some people who just watch, A New Hope first can see it as kind of goofy. I've heard people that I've talked to who are like, I thought, especially if you're watching it, Star Wars for the first time as like a teenager or in your 20s, it's easier to see the Empire as a little bit goofy. And I think that Rogue One does a perfect job at showing just how scary Darth Vader and the Empire, how scary you're supposed to see them as. And I think it sets a whole new precedent for the original trilogy. When you're looking at the Empire from the eyes of how people in Rogue One saw it, it makes it like a different story entirely.
Okay, I really vibe with that. I think, especially because I remember when Rogue One came out, like I feel like it a little bit more than Force Awakens. I heard about new people coming to Star Wars.
Hmm.
Um, the Force Awakens, it feels more like dependent on the previous movies, but like
Yeah.
Rogue One was like, ah, it's just a spin-off. I can just come into it, you know?
Yeah. You
And
also
I
get.
think it has a good mix of different levels of the Empire.
Hmm.
It's got a big action climax. It's got an ensemble of characters that all have sort of the same level of importance.
Yeah.
Um, and like like you just have like a very ground level entry. Um, you have like and like the protagonists, like they're very entry level
Hmm.
people who aren't this like these destined people, and the villain of Krennic is this middle management guy who's just having a really bad day.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a terrible person, but he's also like dealing with all these bosses that won't give him his credit. Um, and it's very, I don't know. I think it's, I also, this is something I've been thinking of recently is like, as I'm watching the Clone Wars, I think about watching Rogue One again. I really want to do it. I'm just doing everything chronologically right now.
Hmm.
But I'm like, Rogue One is kind of a Clone Wars arc.
Yeah. Very
Um,
much so.
which I don't know why that makes it. I don't know. I think it is good to start some like the general people with a movie, probably.
Hmm.
And so that it just sort of that sort of like episodic that thing is very cool, and it's very I don't know, I think it's a good pick. I think especially because um more than we like to admit, people think a lot of people who are new now, um you're right, might think the Empire is ridiculous because it's not really showing how it operates. It's more
Hmm.
just like, oh, I know this like imagery is like that means a villain, but like everything's so much more complex now, with like
Yeah.
things like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, that like people are interested in like very dark systems and people, but it's like they want to go full plunge into it rather than like the 12 minutes of screen time Vader has in A New Hope.
Yeah.
Um, and so, um, but also special effects wise, people sometimes that are new to the OT might reject some of that, and so maybe to invest them into the story a bit more, uh, with like a modern filmmaking thing, might get them in. They might have some questions about CGI Tarkin and CGI Leia, though.
Yeah. 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 But that's why I don't know. I just love like you get a funny droid, one of the staples of Star Wars. You get a funny droid. K2SO is awesome, um, and he's a great funny droid to start out with. Even though I would personally prefer to start out with C3PO. Whatever you know. But anyway, um, and then you just have that iconic shot of Vader at the end, and that's how you first get introduced to Vader. Is him just slaughtering a bunch of people and just being dead set on getting this. You know what I'm saying? Like if there's anything that sets the standard for what Vader, like how scary Vader has been in Legends and in comics and in like video games, it is that shot, you know. And like I know this all came after the original trilogy, but still, I feel like if you watch the original trilogy with that view of Vader, it changes so much about how you're looking at the original trilogy. And I think in a good way. It's also like as much as it is just as like big spectacle as the prequels, it's a much simpler storyline than the prequels. So it's a much easier, I think, jumping off point to be like, all right, this is a fairly straightforward story, but it's awesome in the same way.
I have one gripe with it.
Yes.
It is Rogue One is it's very light on C-3PO and R2-D2, who, you know, in A New Hope, who like I'm not necessarily arguing this, but for the sake of discussion, A New Hope is a great starting point because it starts off with C-3PO and R2-D2
Mm-hmm.
as this sort of framing device
Yeah.
for the entire galactic saga. They carry the stories with them. What would you say to that?
I agree. I know what you're saying. I think it would make less sense though if you started with, I don't know. I feel like this is okay because there's never going to be after this movie, there's not ever really going to be a break in R2D2 and C3PO. You know what I'm saying? Like you have
Yeah.
this, the one droid that you're really like attached to dies, right? Gets shot up. And then you meet these other two droids and you're like, okay, more droids. And then they're with you for the long haul.
Yeah, I was gonna add that like all the protagonists die. Spoiler.
Like, okay, spoiler if you haven't listened to any episode we've ever done.
Okay, but isn't this weird? Because like, what if someone's looking for the correct order to watch Star Wars and they hear a podcast where they have the perfect order and they're spoiling all the movies?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, let's.
This is for our sake. This is for people who, I think this. Okay, the podcast is more for people who have non-Star Wars friends. So like generally,
Yeah, also if you came if you came to this to try to get an order, I will put the order in the description of the episode. Don't listen to the podcast about why. Just trust us that it's a good. And if for some reason you haven't seen Star Wars and you want to know what order we're talking about, it's in the description of the episode. That's what I'll give you so that we don't spoil it. Because the whole reason I made the list is because of the spoilers. So, you know.
yeah. So all the protagonists die, which is like, I know there's some other bad like tragic endings to Star Wars movies, but like in a way that's like you can only go up in the sense that like that from now on you can get used to characters continuing in other movies. Maybe that makes it hurt less though, because if you're familiar with all the other movies, like Rogue One hits because it's like, oh, for the first time, none of them survive.
But in the same way, I think the last line of Rogue One perfectly sets up the entire watch time.
Definitely. Rogue One is also a prequel, as much
It
as
is.
Sunday movie
I
says.
literally think that the best line that you could ever end the first watch through of a Star Wars movie on is the end of Rogue One, where they're like, "What did they bring us? Hope." And then you watch the rest of Star Wars, and the rest of Star Wars is about one thing, really. If you boil it down to one word, it would be hope.
Yeah, hope versus fear. Vader's
Yeah.
trying to strike fear.
Yeah.
Leia is continuing on saving people with hope.
And that is why the second movie is A New Hope.
Yeah.
Duh. I think that was, I mean, there's no other movie you can watch after that. A New Hope is next. You get introduced to your main three characters that are going to be with you for a while and that you're going to grow to love or hate or both. Or love to hate is what it is. I think you're either going to love them or you're going to love to hate them. Christian, I've been waiting for a good time to read this to you, and I think this is a good moment now that we're talking about being introduced to Han, Luke, and Leia. Has nothing to do with the order.
George Lucas quote?
No, this is some dude off Reddit, and I want to know your opinion. No, it's on. I don't know if it's on Reddit. It's on some online forum. I just want to know if you agree with it. And it says, part of the reason that Han, Luke, and Leia work so well as the main trio is that they're all mistakenly under the impression that they're the sane one in a two idiots and the voice of reason trio. Right? So, examples. Like, Han is somebody has to save our skins, and someone has to stop Han and Leia from murdering each other. That's Luke. And someone has to keep... Sorry. Somebody has to save our skins, being Luke. And then someone has to stop... Wait, or is that Leia? Yes, Leia. The person did not specify.
I think they're a great three. They're a great trio of characters. I agree.
So, wait, okay. So Leia is somebody has to save our skins. And then Luke is someone has to stop Han and Leia from murdering each other mid-lover spat. And then Han is someone has to keep the twins out of trouble involving Force nonsense. And they're all equally as much trouble as each other, but they all think that they are the only sane person in the group.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's true. That's
okay.
Cool.
Have you heard of the joke of like characters in Star Wars? Like the question of have they seen Star Wars or not?
No.
Like Mando hasn't seen Star Wars. He's like, "What's the Force? What's the dark saber?"
Yeah.
So like there are also the three levels of that. Like Han kind of hasn't seen Star Wars. He doesn't know the greater conflicts other than like the Empire, but he doesn't really care about that. Leia has this in her core, like this is what we're about. I'm fighting for the galaxy. She's seen Star Wars, and then Luke is like just getting into it. He's like, I saw a poster with a lightsaber, and I'm here for it. I have questions. I don't really know what's going on, but
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about for why we're watching A New Hope next, other than it's kind of what sets the stage for the rest of the other movies, as well as Rogue One. But so being introduced to fully Darth Vader, what Darth Vader is doing, you know, Luke, where he's coming from, and of course Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know,
I think it works great because it's to get someone into the to want to speed through it a good chunk of the movies. Um, it helps that like no time has passed between each movie.
yeah,
So it's like this ends, and then ooh, I'm in. The crawl happens, and it's like oh, they're referencing what just happened in Rogue One,
yeah,
and now the events continue.
exactly.
And I think you could easily do this in one night. So then, with that question, um, is your watch list in any way like timed? Like, like, would you separate days or
So
anything like that?
I have this set up into one, two, three, four, five different like sections. Okay. So I have it as like the first section is three movies, and the second section is three movies, and then you watch like there's then one movie in this section, one movie in one more section, and then finish it with three movies in the last section. So it's like what sections go together. So yes, you could watch these all in like a day, and it would make sense, right? And so the third movie of the first section is Empire Strikes Back. So starting with Rogue One, New Hope, Empire, right? The end of that, you get the Luke, I'm your father. That's how the first section ends. Is Luke coming
That's
back.
the twist at the end of the TV pilot that
Yeah.
gets you to go into the rest of the show.
Yes. I feel like these three movies are perfectly like, all right, if you like this, you will like Star Wars, And it's like, here's the twist to get you to watch more. And so, also not a whole lot to say. Empire is easily one of my favorites. It's probably either one or two. It changes depending on which one I've watched most recently. Honestly,
And also, it's great, and it's meant to follow A New Hope, so there's not much explaining to do.
exactly. So then, the first big twist, day 2, we start with the Phantom Menace. So we go back in time. So this is what I call the Anakin Day. This is what I call Anakin Day, right? So the first day would be Pilot Day, and the second day would be Anakin Day, because the biggest problem that I have with people who say that you should watch them in chronological order is because I think it's lame I think the Luke, I'm your father is such a great moment. And especially if you don't know that moment is like that's one of the most important moments in cinema history that sadly neither of us were around for. But like to the point where Yoda was supposed to die off screen, and he came back in episode 6 because people just straight up did not believe that Vader was telling the truth. So like the writers were like, all right, well, we have to put Yoda back in just so that he can be like, yep, and then die. Like it changed how people like saw it. And I think that if you see Anakin's story before that, it kind of ruins the moment. Like it's still there, but it's not like it's more irony than it is like the audience actually figuring out something. It's dramatic irony instead of the audience being like, oh my gosh.
Again, because okay, again, I'm saying again because I said something in my head but didn't actually say it out loud. Uh, I think both of them work because
Mm-hmm.
being in there with Luke is very important
Mm-hmm.
and his surprise. But there's this quote from Hitchcock, Master of Suspense. I don't know if he gave himself that title or not, but
Probably.
um, he had this whole thing of like if you show a bomb being put under the table and then have a dialogue conversation, it's going to be more tense than if you just have a dialogue conversation and then a bomb explodes.
That's true.
And because you're going in from like you're going in with this video with viewing of like people wants to know the heart of Star Wars and want to be able to quickly go through and be hooked rather than worry about the systems that are maybe hard to sort of get used to understanding. If they don't know the like very simple sort of action adventure way that it was portrayed in the original trilogy. But there is that other side of it, I think, that showing Anakin's journey, what the choices he makes that contributes to him being Darth Vader. I think I like coming in at that chronologically, but I'm not doing a list. So
what in my opinion, it was what twist do you want? What twist do you not want to know? Do you not want to know that Darth Vader is Luke's father, or do you not want to know that Anakin turns out to be Darth Vader at the end of the trilogy? Because that's one like cool aspect about watching the prequels first is that you don't know that Anakin is gonna go bad, and so it's kind of like that's a crazy twist at the end when he finally chooses Palpatine. But out of the twists that I would like personally to have like not known, it's got to be the father. I'm your father. So that's why second day we go back before we finish the OT. We go back in time and we watch Anakin's backstory, and this is where I'm saying starts and finishes.
One more thing, this does remind me of the Machete Order, which was made before any of the sequels came out or the spinoffs. So it was only focused on the first 6 movies, except the cynical fan, whoever it was that came up with it, was like, "Axe Phantom Menace. It means nothing. It doesn't add anything to the story."
That's
which
so
is
bad.
Which is very, very bad opinion. But the whole thing was like A New Hope, Empire, flashback to Anakin.
This is definitely
not that. This is the Spencer Compass Order, and I think you're coming at it with a much more positive and a much more curious perspective.
Yeah,
so
I'm just not.
that.
I'm going to tell you to not watch Rise of Skywalker. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so we go back in time and we watch the prequel trilogy because now that we've gotten the
whole trilogy,
the
whole prequel trilogy is Anakin Day.
Yeah, that's the second day. Second day is Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, learning Anakin's backstory, and then this is where this is where I'm saying.
Which I forget. Did you say that you were entirely just focusing on movies?
So, for this specific, I'm going to tell you both. So, when it comes to if you're adding in the
is
shows,
this based on how someone receives Anakin Day?
No, this is just like this is the list that I gave my friend who didn't want to watch the TV shows. So if this is when you would insert, and like I said, these are the days if you're only watching the movies. If you're only watching the movies, you can easily do these in days. If you're not, this is where you have to take a long time because after Attack of the Clones is when you would insert Clone Wars, and then I would suggest finding the season 7 Revenge of the Sith supercut.
Yeah, I was just very curious about that because, like, yes, you could have an Anakin Day, or you could have an Anakin 3 months.
3 months.
With an added component of Ahsoka, an added component of really exploring Obi-Wan, and a bunch of other world building systemic stuff.
This is all a lot of just like the movies for now, and like I said, this is pretty easy to just like insert Clone Wars here between these 2 movies, and then
if the person who has gone through these 2 days or 1.5 days, I would ask them after Attack of the Clones, "Hey, do you want to go into this show?" Basically,
or do you want to
and if at the end of the Attack of the Clones, which because of my experience with Attack of the Clones, very likely that they're obsessed with Star Wars after that.
Yeah.
In which case, you're ready for Clone Wars. If you're like, I want to know what happens next, and I want to get to, maybe you're excited about Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver and John Boyega. Maybe you want to get to the sequels. You maybe want to continue on.
Yes. Yeah. So, and this is why I'm saying starts and finishes, because day 3 is just Return of the Jedi. That's it. So you get to, so you've gone back in time. Day 2, Anakin day, Anakin start, and then Anakin's finish. Starts and ends. You know, the days right next to each other.
And Luke finishes. I feel like it's important that it concludes.
And Luke finishes, yes. But, you know, like having, like, after you learn that Anakin is Luke's father, cool. You got the twist. Go learn about Anakin and how he got here. And now you can finish both stories at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
I'm thinking, I wonder if this is going to be a bit of whiplash, going like, okay, Rebellion Empire, they've had 3 movies of that, and then, whoa, different political system, different heroes and villains. Also, the Republic is sort of becoming a villain itself. And then, okay, we're back to the simple Rebellion and Alliance. I don't think they're going to be lost. I don't think they're going to lose their place in terms of who's the sides. I think they will be like, very confused about the Jabba's palace plan, because they will have forgotten some of the logistics of the ending of Empire Strikes Back. They're gonna have 3 movies past that, and then it's gonna be like, what's going on?
No, I understand that, and that's why I don't think that anyone should be doing this order without someone who knows Star Wars present. I know it's like parental
designated Star Wars fan.
Well, no, I just think like you should watch or you should like go back and try to remember what happened before you watch. I think during, I don't know what to call this day. I don't know what to call day 3. It's just Return of the Jedi. It's
This is Yub Nub Day.
Yub Nub Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think that part of Yub Nub Day should be remembering what happened in Empire Strikes Back, you know, like going back, like maybe not rewatching Empire Strikes Back, but like maybe watching a recap video on YouTube or something, you know.
If it was me, I would be giving a speech before every movie, or at least every day, where it's like similarly written to a crawl, but like more like zoomed out of like, this is the galactic story, and I would be like really into it, and like,
oh yeah, that's what would be really cool about watching this with a Star Wars fan, because they would be able to help you like remember, okay, this is like way before, and we're going back in time. Now we're going to go back to the present time where Luke and Darth Vader just fought. Han has been frozen in carbonite and taken to Jabba's palace. We're about to see what happens after, you know. So Return of the Jedi.
Have we gotten to a point that's influenced from the Mutual Rankings Marathon? I don't remember.
We're about to. Okay. The next big decision is the one that was most influenced by the Mutual Rankings Marathon.
Strap in, folks.
Strap in. Yeah. So you're either gonna really love this pick or really hate it. But and based on that, you already know what it is. But anyway, I think after you watch Return of the Jedi in one day, because now you have like a cleanser, right? You've just watched 7 movies in 3 days, basically. So you need to chill out for a second, right? And so the next day, you then have only 1 movie. And we're going to go back in time again.
Oh, we've already wiped out the first 6 movies.
There's still 1 more that is a spinoff that we have not watched yet. That is.
Oh, yeah, that is. But okay, yeah. Yeah, I was expecting this. Never mind.
So then after Return of the Jedi, you then have Solo Day.
Yeah, okay, I support this.
So you go solo, and then on the last day, you start with Force Awakens. And this is another of the start and finish thing. You know, start Han Solo's journey, end Han Solo's journey in the next. Because I think that's one thing that is a good like step over point for people who may be weary about going to the, you know, the new trilogy, because there, you know, a lot of people have their opinions about Disney or whatever, about how well they did with the movies or whatever, or even if they haven't watched them, they may have heard bad things about them. So if they're a Han Solo fan, or even just because of the fact that Han Solo is familiar to them, you go back and you go, okay, you know that character that was in the other movies. We're gonna go watch his backstory real quick, and then he's in the new movie, and we're gonna show the end of his story right after another.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways this works. Solo introduces the dice.
Yeah.
That were in the original trilogy, but like I never noticed them. And there's that they deleted a scene where they showed up in Force Awakens that then carried through when Rian Johnson wrote Last Jedi before Force Awakens came out. But like that sets up, it reiterates who exactly Han is,
mm-hmm.
which feels like it just sort of fits seeing him come back as an old man. And there's also another out when Maul comes back at the end. Because that's when you can be like, because they're going to be surprised that Maul comes back. So you can be like, okay, final offer.
Do you want to watch Clone Wars?
Watch the Clone Wars.
Yes, this is the other spot where you can watch Clone Wars. Is right here. So I'd be like, this would be the other like, and I don't know. I think Clone Wars is the only TV show that I'd be like, you have to watch it on this, on like and I'm not even saying you have to, but if there's any TV show that I would be pushing during the Compass Order or whatever, it would be Clone Wars. And probably Rebels.
I know I've been supporting that the whole time, but the thought just occurred to me that based on what's popular right now with Star Wars, Mandalorian is the most iconic thing.
Yes, but I feel like it's so far removed that it would, except for season 2, I guess, or that's
it's removed, but that means it's also accessible to a new viewer.
That's true.
So have you thought about where this fits in? Does it go after Return of the Jedi? Like,
I would probably do. Yeah, I'd probably do it after Return.
I feel like the average person who's like, I don't want to get invested in a long show, they're still more likely to choose Mando over Clone Wars.
Yeah, I feel like if you do want to do Mando, you have to do it after Return of the Jedi, because it's really, really easy to forget what time period Mando is in. Because
I've seen that firsthand with you somehow.
Yeah, like I will just like randomly forget that this is after the Empire, and so like I think that you have to watch it after Return of the Jedi just to ensure that this person who has already gone back in time once is not confused that this is happening after the Empire.
Yeah.
It also introduces you to the New Republic, which then gets destroyed in the first movie.
That's true. And I think that other things will sort of make those connections more clear with further. They canceled Rangers of the New Republic, right?
I think officially, yes, they have canceled it. Boys.
And then Rogue Squadron is set in the New Republic. I don't know if that's before the war or after the war.
I have no idea.
But I feel like it'd be cool if that was before the war. Anyway, we're talking about future movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the list.
Well, but then we're not done yet, because after Solo, you end it with the sequels.
Yeah,
now the list is done.
Okay.
So you have 2 days that are completely just watching a trilogy. Which makes it pretty easy.
I feel like that's a bit much, though.
Well, okay, yeah. I'm not saying that, I'm saying these are the groupings that make sense. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to watch them all in a day. What I'm saying is you have 2 groups of times that are just watching a trilogy. There's 2 times where you watch a whole trilogy in order. It's really just the OT and the, and the spin-off movies that are kind of the weird ones. And the choice of putting Solo right before Force Awakens is what was inspired by Mutual Rankings Marathon. Because if you remember, they ended up right next to each other in our rankings, and we had to watch those 2 movies for the episode, I think.
think so.
Definitely.
'Cause
So
didn't you rank Solo pretty low?
I ranked Solo pretty low, and you ranked Solo pretty high. So it ended up dead middle of the pack, the same as Force Awakens.
That's right.
But then I realized that I liked Solo a whole lot more than I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually
Solo
watched
was-
those movies.
Solo
We watched
was
those movies back
also-
to back.
Solo is also one of those movies that is arguably a Clone Wars arc. Both a Star Wars stories. Just I guess because of like their position in filling in canon and like the amount of references that happen.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to like fleshing out parts of like either characters or like the Rebel Alliance, it all feels like it does the same thing that Clone Wars did, but in live action in a theater, which is what I kind of miss. And I think that it's also because you know how like with Rogue One you have Rebels and Empire, Han Solo or Solo Star Wars it's all the scoundrels. But the Obi-Wan movie that we were going to get, that would have filled out a trilogy of spin-offs that are all three different factions because Obi-Wan's a Jedi.
Yeah.
It would have been I think that's what they were going for originally.
Yeah.
There was also the rumored Boba Fett movie that was going to directly mirror the Solo movie. I don't know. But Solo flopped, and then they're like, oh, I know what we can do. We can try to point our parents into buying this app so that they can give kids a chance to watch Bluey when they're eating breakfast and hook them into $20 subscriptions or something like that. And then here we are with this business model that allows them to just Star Wars on TV.
Yeah. I can't believe that. I still can't believe that Solo flopped.
It was at a time where I don't know. They just didn't have that. They didn't regenerate a hunger for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like there was no scarcity of it. We were all very fresh off of Last Jedi. It was very strange seeing that movie opening weekend.
Yeah.
With like only a few other groups in the theater.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's my list. How do you like it? Do you think that this is a suitable list for first time viewer of Star Wars?
I think it is. Probably for the average person, it really works. For some reason, it makes me want to think about how to do this for very niche kinds of people.
I think that'd be cool. Yeah.
Like, I think it's also interesting to be like someone who is like, I don't know, someone who has like has a specific interest in like Lord of the Rings. What does that mean? Or if they're really into the MCU, I don't know, like how to sort of tailor the list for that. But I think this for just as the good ways to exit the narrative and then come back to it, I think it's good. It's very interesting that you started off with a spinoff and then start a trilogy, then go back to another trilogy, then go to another spinoff, then a trilogy.
Then finish on a
like
trilogy.
The spinoffs are sort of like bookends.
Yeah.
And like Rogue One sets up the originals and the prequels in some way, and then Solo sets up the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I've been trying to come up with like my perfect way to watch Star Wars for the first time for like 6 months. And this is like kind of the finished order that I came up with about a month ago when my friend finally was like, and I hadn't kind of given up on it until my friend was like, hey, what order should I show my friend Star Wars in? And I was like, oh man, like now I got to finish this list. And I've been afraid to show it to you because I thought you would hate it.
The only thing I think you're wrong about is that this is not a great list for kids. I think.
Oh no, probably not.
I think
no, because it sets up the first movie is scary as crap and everyone dies.
Yeah, I think the best one for kids, based off of what I've seen of like
the great youth reaction, young people's reaction to Rebels, and like seeing all these little cosplayers at Celebration, I think Rebels is probably the best entry point.
Oh yeah, no, I
And it
would.
doesn't. It's a way of exploring the original trilogy era without spoiling things necessarily. It's like this sort of parallel thing that just really appeals to kids. And
Yeah.
it's not as lore heavy. It's not as long as Clone Wars.
Well, I don't know. Rebels is pretty Force lore heavy.
What I mean is that you're still following the same characters every episode.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think the best movie to start with if you're a kid is probably just going to be A New Hope. I don't know, because Phantom Menace is slavery and galactic war, civil war, and very political.
Everything's a galactic civil war.
I know, but then it gets very political in Phantom Menace, which can be hard to follow as a kid.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't have to.
You might not fully orient yourself as a kid, but
Yeah.
From my memories of it, Phantom Menace was also a very favorite movie of mine because
I mean, I love Phantom Menace also.
it's just like the approach to the action was a lot more ambitious because of the tools that Lucas had.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still using miniatures, but he's using like 200 more miniatures.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's still just going full force. I'm not trying to replicate any of what I was doing. This is new stuff. And like placing a big pod race scene in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's such a bold thing. And it's just like, it's the closest thing a Star Wars movie has to just like a vibes kind of plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no, I don't really think that this is like going to be this is not a super great list for a kid to watch, but I do think that if you're anywhere older than like 11 or 12 and you're, looking to watch Star Wars for the first time, I think this could be a really good list and way to watch. Because like I said, do you know what I mean now where I said it's like it starts and ends. It's a lot of like starting, you get right before the end, or you actually start in the middle a lot of the time. For most of the storylines in, just like the way they came out.
Also, yeah. Start like the 70s and 80s, that's the middle. And then the 2000s was the beginning. It's like that was the whole pitch, was like the beginning.
Yeah.
And then the sequel's like witness the
So we're still doing it. We're still doing that, just in a little bit more convoluted way.
Yeah.
So this is basically, you can call it the compass order, or it's just the extended machete order. It's kind of what it is.
Or in a way, it's the release order with asterisks.
Yeah. It's almost exactly release order.
Yeah.
Except
like almost every Skywalker saga movie is chronological, and then spin-offs are used for thematic setups.
Yeah. And there's only one that's not in order, and it's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like it, and I hope to one day be able to watch the movies in this order, because I actually have not watched the movies in this order. I know I probably should before like going out and be like, this is a great way to watch this movie, but
yeah. To quote Obi-Wan while he was chained to a pole on a desert planet,
I think Padme's on top of this.
I was gonna say, good job.
Thank you.
But I mean it sincerely.
Thank you. I think that the next time we watch through the saga, we should watch it this way, just to see.
I think that's probably a year out because I'm.
Yeah, probably.
Because I'm doing Clone Wars. I still don't.
We're also still recovering from the last time we watched the whole saga.
That's true. But I don't know if I'm gonna start Bad Batch before Kenobi, because I want to speed along to get to Rogue One and Solo. I'm really excited for those.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna. But also, I think I'm gonna save Bad Batch season 1 rewatch for right before season 2 comes out.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna instead I'm gonna finish Clone Wars. I'm gonna finish it by next week, by the way.
Sweet.
I'm gonna finish that. Do Revenge of the Sith,
Mm-hmm.
and then Solo, Rogue One, and then watch along with Kenobi. Then after Kenobi, I'm gonna start Rebels again,
Nice.
and maybe A New Hope.
I like it. The whole time, while we're still doing Resistance in between things. I love that this episode was supposed to be like a little like short little episode. Now it's probably going to take the place of a Resistance episode for a week.
Well, when was the Resistance episode? Are we still recording?
Yeah.
By the way, take this out. I
Okay.
dare you. Seriously, take it
Oh,
out.
I will.
The business meeting.
So, the Resistance episode we recorded yesterday, is that a this week episode?
Yeah.
So we have time to do a Resistance
Yeah,
episode.
no, I was gonna do that episode and the Kenobi episode, because the Kenobi episode will probably be less than 30 minutes because it's like, a trailer
Yeah.
review. So
No, it'll definitely be longer, but it'll be longer. But that is
that's a
They'll
has to
only
come
be-
out this week thing though, I think.
I was gonna say no because I don't think we need to like go over like TV spots or anything like that.
Okay.
It can happen. It can be released a week before. Like I don't think
Yeah.
any significant thing is gonna happen because like everyone's gonna be talking about Star Wars that weekend it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird how Disney Plus shows operate now. They use the first episode as like a trailer for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Very little promotion. But
So yeah, it'll probably be
we've done this with Mandalorian season 2 and with
Yeah.
Boba Fett episode 0. So Avery comes back. Nah, we don't need it. But sort of like this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
We can do what we did in Boba Fett if you want, where we can go over the 2 1.5-minute trailers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no. What'll probably end up happening is the Resistance episode that we recorded yesterday comes out this week, and then this episode comes out the week after. Or no, Kenobi episode will come out. What are the weeks? Let me see. I don't know the weeks yet. Give me a second. So what'll probably happen is the Resistance episode comes out this week, and then this episode will come out the next week, and the Kenobi episode will come out the week after that, because that means it's coming out like the Wednesday 2 days before. Yes, I read your lips. I cannot hear you.
The 25th.
Yeah, because we normally release Wednesdays, right? Yeah.
We haven't done this in a month.
I think we should go to Mondays or Wednesdays. I mean, Wednesday releases means that we can record on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday ish.
But
Huh?
you'll be less busy.
But I have to work. But we can record literally any day between Wednesday and Wednesday. I'll have
Just
more
mean
time
that,
to
like,
edit. I'll have more time to edit.
The first 2 episodes, which like that might, I feel like that we could do those as 2 separate recordings, but back to back. No, because we'll be seeing them all in one sitting. So like that's one episode
Mm-hmm.
that comes out on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So if we release that on a Wednesday, that comes out the same day as the next episode.
Oh, that's right. Maybe we should move to Thursday releases, but we can make the premiere come out early. So like we can move to or Friday. We can probably move to Friday releases.
What did we do during Mando season 2?
We did Friday releases.
Did that not also have a Friday premiere?
It did. I think I released it early. So what we can do this time is we can do Friday. We can go back to doing.
Honestly, like
The only thing that's tough is the beginning because it's gonna have less time between
Yeah.
the next
So we
episode.
can do Friday releases, and
That
then
way we only have to rush on the premiere,
yes,
and then the rest is more chill.
yeah, we can do Friday releases, which means that we'll record all the episodes on Thursdays, ish, you know, or Wednesday night, ish, somewhere around there. And then for the premiere, we can record on Sunday. I'll release it Monday or Sunday night, depending on when I get it edited.
Good. We should probably record an outro.
Yes. All right. Well, that was the compass order, I think is what we're calling it for this episode. So let us know what you think about it. If you'd like to find us on any of the social medias.
But to close out this episode,
Yes.
to quote Fleetwood Mac, you could go your own way.
You could.
And that is what you did today, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. If you'd like to find us on any of the social medias, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at laststarwarspod or on Facebook and YouTube at the Last Star Wars Podcast, where you get to see all the fun videos of us doing this. So go check it out. You can also see it on Spotify now, so that's cool. If you want to email us, you can email us at laststarwarspod@gmail.com. Let us know what your order is. If you do end up listening to this order, let us know what you think, because that would be pretty awesome. So yeah, just let us know. We like to hear from you. Even though we haven't ever, we like to get emails, please. Anyway, I'll stop begging. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Last Star Wars Podcast, and we'll see you next week.